The sky over Zarnak was dark and filled with smoke. Huge metal ships hovered in the air, and a thick crowd of aliens stood shoulder to shoulder in the slave market. Voices shouted. Chains rattled. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and fear. One by one, cages opened. And one by one, the slaves were sold. A tall insectoid with 4 arms was dragged out. Strong worker. 300 credits. Sold. Next, a blue-skinned child with glowing eyes. Young and healthy. Sold. The auctioneer, a fat, slimy creature with 6 eyes, grinned as each deal was made. Best slaves in the galaxy. He shouted. In the back of the market, standing silently in a black coat, was a human man. His face was hidden under a hood. He didn't shout, he didn't laugh. He just watched. His name was Captain Riker. No one paid him attention. After all, humans were strange, quiet types. Not many came to these markets. Not many cared. The auction continued until only 1 cage remained. The crowd grew quiet. The auctioneer frowned. This last one. He tapped the cage. Open it. The gate creaked open. Silence. Then, slowly, something small and thin crawled out. It was a girl, or what used to be one. She was dirty, covered in rags. Her bones stuck out under her skin. Her hands shook. Her eyes were wide, but empty, like someone who had seen too much pain. Her skin was soft silver, her hair white and tangled. She looked no older than 15 in human years. Someone in the crowd laughed. She can't even stand. She's broken. She's not worth a single credit. The auctioneer forced a smile. She is quiet and eats very little. Good for cleaning, maybe. The girl looked around in fear. No one stepped forward. She lowered her head and trembled. Riker watched closely. She has no strength, one alien shouted. She's worthless. Another said. The auctioneer sighed. Fine, just 5 credits, anyone? Nothing. 3 credits? Come on. Still. Silence. 2 credits? Even the slaves in chains looked away in pity. The girl sat on the ground, ready to return to the cage. Her eyes closed, like she had given up all hope. That's when it happened. A single hand raised from the back of the crowd. Everyone turned. It was the human. The auctioneer blinked. What? Riker spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, but strong. I'll take her. The crowd laughed again, louder this time. Human wants trash. Should die before sunrise. Stupid human. But Riker didn't care. He walked forward, placed 5 credits into the auctioneer's slimy hand, and bent down to the girl. She didn't look at him. She just curled up tighter. He didn't speak. He took off his black coat and gently wrapped it around her. Then, without a word, he lifted her into his arms. She was so light, it felt like carrying feathers. As Riker turned to leave, the auctioneer shouted after him, "No refunds, human. No crying when she drops dead." Riker didn't stop walking. He carried her through the dusty path, away from the slave market, away from the laughter and cruel eyes. Inside his small ship, he laid her gently on a warm bed. She didn't move. He brought water, food, left it beside. Her. Still nothing. He sat nearby and waited. Hours passed. The ship was silent. Then, as the light dimmed, he heard it, a tiny, broken whisper. A sound like a bird with a wounded wing. He turned. The girl had moved her lips, just a little. Why? She asked. Riker looked at her and answered quietly, because no one else did. She stared at him, her lips trembling. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but for the first time in what seemed like years, they were not tears of pain. They were tears of confusion and hope. She didn't believe the bed was real. Not at first. Soft cloth under her broken body. Warm air instead of freezing chains. No shouting, no whip. It had to be a dream. Kareen blinked slowly. Her eyes adjusted to the soft lights above. There was no cage, no market noise. No smell of blood, just quiet. Her thin fingers moved across the soft blanket. She touched it again and again, confused. Then her fingers touched something else, something round and cold. A metal bowl. Inside it was food. Real food, clean, hot. Kyrene stared at it. She didn't move. She didn't eat. She waited for the pain. Back in the pens, slavers had played games. Offered food, then beat those who reached for it. She closed her eyes. Her stomach growled like an angry animal still. She didn't touch it. From across the room, Captain Riker watched in silence. He didn't speak. He didn't rush her. He just sat in a chair, his hands folded, a deep look in his eyes. He had seen this before. Wounded soldiers, starved orphans, scared prisoners of war. And now, this silver-skinned girl, Kyrene, though she hadn't said her name yet, lay in front of him like a ghost. Alive, but barely. Time passed. Then, slowly she whispered, "Are you going to hit me now?" Riker's chest tightened. "No," he said gently. She looked up. Her eyes searched his face like she didn't understand his words. Then, "Will you sell me again?" Riker shook his head. "Why?" she asked. "I have no use, not even worth food." He walked over and sat on the floor beside her bed. "You breathe. That's enough reason," he said. "Eat if you want. If not, it's okay." He stood and walked away, leaving her alone. Kyrene stared at the food for a long time. Then, with shaking fingers, she picked up a piece of bread. She sniffed it like a wild animal. No poison, no trick. She took a tiny bite. Her eyes watered. It was warm. She ate slowly, every bite like a gift from another world. Later that night, the ship drifted through deep space. Stars passed by outside the windows. Riker stood in the cockpit, hands behind his back, thinking. He had taken her on a wild gamble. He knew nothing about her. Not her race, not her past, not even her name, but something in her eyes had stayed. With him. Not fear, not pain, not hate. It was something worse. She had nothing left to lose. Behind him, the sound of quiet footsteps. He turned. Kyrene stood at the doorway. The coat he had given her wrapped tightly around her body. She looked small, but a little stronger now. "I ate," she said softly. He nodded. "Good, I'm sorry." Riker blinked. For what? For being broken. That hit him harder than any weapon. "You're not broken," he said. "You were hurt." "That's different." She looked down. "My name is Kyrene." Finally a name, he smiled. "Mine's Riker." They stood in silence. Then she asked something strange. "Why did you pick me?" Riker didn't answer right away. He remembered something long ago on a battlefield, where a young girl with blue eyes had died in his arms. A slave child caught in the wrong place. No one helped her. He was too late. This time. He wasn't. "I made a promise," he said. "Not again." Kyrene didn't understand. Not fully. But she nodded, and something in her chest softened. Hours later, as Riker slept in the pilot chair, Kyrene stood in front of a mirror in the washroom. She pulled back the collar of the coat. On her thin neck, partly hidden by scars, was a strange mark. An old symbol, faded, but still glowing faintly in the dark. She traced it with her finger. She remembered screams. Fire. A throne room. A voice yelling her name. A mother's cry. A hand covering her eyes. She shook the memory away. But deep inside, something was waking up. Something she had tried to forget. Asterisk. The ship shook not from outside, but from a whisper inside her soul. Kyrene sat alone in the washroom, staring at the mirror again. The strange mark on her neck was still there, glowing faintly in the dark, like it was alive. She hadn't seen it in years. The slavers used to cover it with dirt or paint, said it was dangerous, said if anyone saw it, they'd all be hunted. Now, under warm lights and clean water, The truth returned. It wasn't just a scar. It was a symbol of power. Royal mark, she remembered. Fire, a golden hall, a crown on her mother's head, soldiers with silver armor kneeling. Then, darkness, screams, her father shouting something before being dragged away. That's when the mark was branded on her. To protect her. To hide her. Kayreen blinked. The memory vanished, but the mark remained. In the other room, Riker was fixing an old military jacket. His hands were rough, but careful. Years of war had trained him to be patient with broken things. He heard quiet footsteps. Kayreen stepped in. She was holding a datapad from the medical bay. "I scanned something," she said, voice soft. He turned and raised a brow. "What is it?" She walked forward and sat across from him. "This." She touched her neck. The screen lit up, showing the mark. Strange symbols danced around it. Riker leaned closer. He didn't recognize the language, but the translator gave a rough answer. "Royal line, House of Vetal, first blood." He looked at her. "What is this?" Kayreen hesitated. "I was born on Miraxis 5. My mother was the High Lady. We had peace, beauty, gardens in the sky." Her voice trembled. "But one day, the stars turned red. Ships came. Bombs fell. I was taken and sold." Riker's jaw clenched. She wasn't just a random slave. She was a lost heir. "That mark," she whispered, "is why they kept me alive, but hidden. If the wrong people find me, they'll come to finish the job." Riker sat back slowly. "You think someone's still looking for you?" "I don't think," she said, eyes hard now. "I know." Later that day, Riker locked the ship's controls and began digging through old files. He searched galactic news archives, war records, slaver movements, anything with the name Vital. Nothing. Erased. Like it never existed. That meant only one thing. It had been covered up on purpose. Someone powerful had destroyed her entire house and didn't want survivors. And now Kayreen was here. With him. That night, while Kayreen slept, Riker stood outside the ship on a lonely moon. He lit a small fire and stared into it. He had once led a rescue mission on a burning colony. Found bodies, children, all gone. War had taken everything from them. He thought he had moved on, but now, this girl with royal blood, broken bones, and silent strength had stirred something in him. Not pity. Not duty. Something deeper. The fire crackled. From behind, Kayreen approached, wrapped in his old coat. "Why did you really buy me?" she asked. He looked into the flames. "Because no one else did," he said. "And because you didn't beg. You just sat there, like someone who had already been forgotten." Kayreen stared at him. Her silver eyes reflected the fire. "I don't want to be forgotten anymore." "You won't be," Riker said. But in the shadows beyond the firelight, something watched. A small hidden drone floated in the darkness, its lens flashing red for just a moment, then vanishing into the night sky. Asterisk. It started with a silence too perfect. Captain Riker knew space was never truly quiet. Ships hummed. Systems ticked. Life had a rhythm. But that morning, when he stepped into the cockpit of his ship, everything felt wrong. The stars outside didn't blink. The usual signal lights on his panel, green, steady, safe, were frozen. Then the red warning flashed. Unidentified ship approaching. He stared at the scanner. One ship. Fast, small. No eyed. A hunter. Riker's face darkened. He locked the controls and grabbed his sidearm. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. Kayreen appeared, still wrapped in the coat. Her silver eyes narrowed. "You feel it too?" she asked quietly. Riker nodded. "They found us. Hours earlier, across the system." A bounty hunter named Scarvel smiled in his dark ship, his armor clicking with every move. "Target confirmed," he said to the com. "The mark is alive, traveling with a human." A voice on the other end hissed, "Kill the human. Bring The girl alive, the house of Vital must never rise again. Scarvel chuckled. Understood. He locked onto Riker's ship. Back on the ship. Riker moved fast. He pushed the ship into stealth mode and flew low, skimming asteroid fields, trying to lose their tail. Kayreen sat beside him, her fingers gripping the seat. Why now? She asked. I've been forgotten for years. Riker didn't look at her. You showed your mark. Somewhere something saw it. Kayreen bit her lip. The drone. She whispered. What drone? Last night. I saw a flicker in the trees. I thought it was nothing. Riker cursed it under his breath. They had been watched. And now. Hunted. The hunter's ship broke through the asteroid field. Weapons armed. Locked on target. Riker's screen screamed warnings. Brace! He shouted. Kayreen dropped to the floor as the first blast rocked the ship. Sparks flew. Alarms blared. I can. Help, she yelled. With what? I remember something. A power. But I don't know if it still works. Riker looked at her. Try it. We're out of options. Kayreen closed her eyes. Deep inside her chest, something stirred. Not fear, not pain. Fire. Her mark glowed again. Brighter than before. And the ship's lights flickered. And then turned blue. Riker stared. What did you just do? Kayreen opened her eyes. I connected to the energy core, I think. I can bend it, Riker smirked. Then do it again. Outside, the hunter ship fired again, but this time Riker's ship shot upward at an impossible speed, like it had come alive. Inside, Kayreen glowed with light, her body trembling from the effort. I can't hold it long. She cried. Just enough for one trick, Riker said. He pulled a sharp turn. Through a broken asteroid, powered down, and hid behind the debris. The hunter ship passed overhead, for a moment. Silence again. Then dash boom. Riker hit the engines and fired behind him. A trap mine exploded against the hunter's rear thrusters. Scarvel's ship spun out of control. But before it exploded, it sent one final message. Target confirmed. Royal. Mark active. Send more. On board Riker's ship, smoke cleared. Systems stabilized. Kayreen lay on the floor, breathing hard, sweat on her skin. You okay? Riker asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded weakly. Too much power. I'm not used to it. You saved us. No, she whispered. That was just the scout. More will come. Riker looked out at the stars. We need to move fast. And find answers. Kayreen's hand found his. Will you leave me? She asked quietly. Riker squeezed it. Never. But neither of them noticed the new signal blinking on the edge of the screen. 6 ships. Closing in. The fire wasn't real, but the pain it unlocked was. Kayreen sat in the center of the small training room aboard Riker's ship. Around her, holographic flames danced, programmed heat and light flickering against cold metal walls. It was Riker's idea. He said fire helped people face what haunted them. Now, surrounded by digital memories of burning cities and ruined skies, Kayreen could feel the scream rising again. She didn't cry out. She clenched her fists and shook. The same fire that had taken her home was now the key to remembering it. In the control room, Riker watched the screen silently. Kayreen had insisted on doing this. I need to remember who I am, she told him. He didn't try to stop her, but deep inside he was afraid. Not of her, of what she might unlock, the kind of truth that could bring enemies from across the stars, inside the flames. Kayreen saw them again, her father, strong and tall, lifting her high as soldiers bowed. Her mother calm, wise, with silver eyes. Like her own, placing a necklace in her hand. You are Vital, she had whispered. Then the explosions, the sky turning red. Her mother screaming, run! A hand pulled Kayreen into a secret tunnel. The door sealed behind her. And when it opened again, everything was ashes. That was the day she was taken, sold, silenced. In the necklace. Gone. She opened her eyes in the training room. The flames vanished. Tears rolled down her face, but she smiled through them. I remember, she whispered. Later she joined Riker near the engine bay. He was tightening bolts and wiping grease from his fingers. She sat beside him on the floor. I was born in the palace of Myraxus 5, she said. My name is Karine Vito, daughter of the High Lady Izari and Lord Tarian. Riker looked up. Then you're not just royalty. No, she said. I'm the last. He handed her a bottle of water. You saw who attacked your family? She nodded slowly. They wore the crest of the Crimson Order. They had no flag, only red. Masks, mercenaries, working for someone bigger. Bigger? Riker asked. Karine hesitated. Someone inside the Galactic Council. Maybe even more than one. My mother said peace made enemies jealous. Riker's expression hardened. Then they'll come again, and soon. Karine looked down. You don't have to protect me, Riker. You're not just anything, he cut in. You're someone they fear. That means you matter. She looked at him. But if you stand with me, they'll come for you too. Riker gave a half smile. They already are. That night, Riker lit a real fire on a quiet moon base they had landed on to refuel. He and Karine sat across from each other. Flames dancing between them. She held her knees close, staring into the light. I was in a cage for 3 years, she said suddenly. I forgot how stars looked, how food tasted. I forgot how to speak. Riker didn't interrupt. But now, she continued, being with you feels like breathing again. He looked at her, eyes soft. You're not alone anymore. She met his gaze, then leaned her head gently on his shoulder. The fire crackled softly, but far beyond the peaceful moment. A cold message crossed the stars. Encrypted broadcast. Location unknown. The girl is alive. Her memories are waking. Begin Phase 2. Burn the human ship. Bring the girl or burn her too. Asterisk. She stood in front of the mirror, not to see herself, but to choose who she would become. Karine tied her long white hair back, her silver eyes sharp and steady. For the first time since her capture, she wore something other than rags or a coat too big for her. Riker had found her a simple black suit-like armor, flexible fabric, clean, fitted. Hers. It wasn't royal. It wasn't fancy, but it felt right. She didn't look like a slave anymore. She looked like someone about to fight back. Outside the ship, Riker loaded weapons and scanned for enemy signals. Karine stepped out, quiet as a shadow. He turned and gave a small smile. You look like trouble, he said. She smiled too. You trained me. They had spent days preparing. She had learned how to hold a blade, aim a blaster, move like a soldier. Her powers were still unstable, but growing. Every time she used them, the mark on her neck glowed stronger. And so did her spirit. Riker pulled up, a map on his wrist. There's a neutral station nearby. Last supply stop before dead space. If they're going to trap us, it'll be there. Karine nodded. Then let's make them regret waiting. At the station, the trap was already set. 6 bounty hunters. 3 spies. 1 warship in orbit, cloaked. But no one expected Karine to walk in beside the human, eyes bright, shoulders straight, wearing a blade on her back like she knew how to use it. Whispers followed her. That's the worthless one. She was sold for 5 credits. Now she walks like a queen. Karine ignored them. Her voice was calm when she reached the trader. Fuel, medical supplies, rations. The trader, a thick green alien with too many teeth, sneered. And payment? She dropped a bag of rare alloys onto the table. Enough? The trader blinked. Riker stood behind her, silent, but ready to draw. Before the trader could respond, the doors exploded open. Bounty hunters rushed in, weapons raised. Target acquired. One shouted. Karine turned slowly. She didn't run. She stepped forward. What happened next was not just a fight. It was a message. Kareen moved like smoke and lightning. Blades clashed. Shots fired. Her hands glowed. Raw energy pushed enemies backward. Cracked metal. Shattered walls. She wasn't perfect. She bled. She screamed. But she didn't fall. Riker fought beside her, covering her blind spots, yelling directions like a commander. Together, they carved through the trap, until only silence remained. The warship in orbit received the report. Attack failed. The girl is not weak. She led the fight. The reply came cold. Then she is no longer worthless. She is dangerous. Prepare for the final strike. Back on the station, Kareen stood among broken crates and sparks. People stared at her, not with pity, with respect. She turned to Riker, chest rising and falling. I used to think I was nothing, she said softly. You're not, Riker said. You never were, but now they know it too. That night, she stared at the stars again, this time from the top deck of the station. Wind brushing her face, not from a cage, not from behind bars. But from the open sky. The place where queens are born. The place where revenge begins. The stars were quiet, too quiet. Like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Riker stood at the edge of the command deck, staring into space. A giant warship, the same one that had burned Kareen's world, was now approaching from the black void. Its red lights glowed like open wounds. Dozens of enemy fighters flanked its sides, a full fleet. All for one girl. Kareen. Riker clenched his fists. They're afraid. He whispered. Behind him, the sound of boots. Kareen stepped forward, no longer the weak girl in rags, no longer the frightened slave he had carried away from a cage. She wore her armor with pride. The royal mark on her neck now glowed like a flame. She was no longer hiding. She had become what they feared. Do we run? She asked, calm. Riker shook his head. No, we stand. Kareen smiled. Good. I'm tired of running. The final message came moments later. Surrender the girl, human. You will be allowed to live. Refuse, and your bones will drift in. The stars. Riker tapped the console, sending a video reply. It was just 2 words. Come try. The battle began with light. Flashes of red and gold lit the blackness of space as the enemy fleet opened fire. Riker's ship dodged and weaved too. Small to hit. Too fast to follow, but they couldn't run forever. Kareen stood at the energy core, eyes closed, breathing slowly. The ship trembled. Then she opened her hands, and everything changed. Blue fire raced through the walls, through the engines. The ship roared forward with unnatural speed, Kareen guiding it, feeding it with her power. She wasn't just inside the ship. She was the ship. Riker targeted the enemy command ship. Give me one clean shot, he said. Kareen opened her eyes. Take it. The blast hit the warship's center. Metal twisted. The ship staggered. But it wasn't enough. More enemies came. Dozens. Hundreds. Kareen fell to her knees, exhausted. I can't hold it much longer. Riker rushed to her. Then I'll buy you time. He ran to the hangar, jumped into a single fighter, looked back at her one last time. Her lips moved. Don't die, she mouthed. He nodded once, then launched into space. In the final moments, Riker's fighter soared through enemy fire, a direct path. No tricks, no shields. Just heart. He dove straight into the flagship's open bay, dodging blasts until boom. A blinding explosion tore through the sky. The warship collapsed. The fleet scattered, and silence returned to the stars. Later, Kareen woke in a healing pod, weak but alive. The station medic looked down. You're lucky, that human of yours. He saved the system. She sat up slowly, chest aching. Where is he? She asked. No answer. She limped through the halls, searching. Finally, she found him sitting outside the ship, injured, bruised, but alive. He looked up at her with a grin. You missed the fireworks, he said. She ran to him, dropped to her knees, and pulled him into a fierce hug. You came. Back, she whispered. I told you, he said. You're not alone. Sometime later, a meeting was held on a peaceful world. Kareen stood tall before leaders of many worlds, aliens, humans, and species across the stars. Some bowed, some stared, but all listened. She didn't beg for power. She didn't ask for revenge. She spoke of peace, of those who suffer in silence, of those left in cages, and of the man who saw worth in what others threw away. As she walked off the stage, a reporter asked, Hi, Lady Kareen. What made you rise? She turned, smiled, and said, He chose me when I was nothing. So now, I choose to be everything. Final scene. Back aboard their ship, Raker leaned on the railing. Kareen walked up beside him. I was sold for 5 credits, she whispered. And now? He asked. She smiled. Now I'm priceless.